to Navigating Ethical Waters, a comprehensive approach to nursing ethics, where we dive deep into the real-world application of the 2025 Nursing Code of Ethics. I'm Jodi O'Malley, whistleblower and founder of Righteous RN. In this course, we'll explore what it truly means to practice with courage, integrity, and moral clarity in today's healthcare landscape.
Provision 2.1. Our primary commitment is always to the patient. Provision 3.5. Nurses are required to speak up when they witness unsafe or unethical practices. Provision 5.3. We are accountable to ourselves and must maintain our moral integrity. Provision 7.3. As nurses, we have an obligation to advocate for ethical practice, even when it's uncomfortable, and how the 2025 Code of Ethics equips you to respond when you're faced with the same pressure. This provision speaks directly to what we just saw in the video. Nurses must act to prevent harm, even when that harm is coming from policy or institutional pressure. In the clip, the patient wasn't denied treatment because it wasn't safe. They were denied because leadership said no. That's a violation of Provision 1.4. If a treatment is safe and indicated, blocking its harm, we're ethically obligated to 2.1, which makes it clear. Our commitment is to the patient, not the institution. This provision speaks to public trust. When protocols are driven by coercion or liability, not evidence, we're obligated to call it out. Advocacy must happen at the policy level, not just behind closed doors. Suppressing off-label treatments that have evidence behind them, that's a violation of this provision. Nurses have a duty to promote science, not censorship, especially during public health emergencies. Evidence must guide care, not fear. The pharmacist in that video said she was stuck, afraid to follow the evidence. That fear is the red flag Provision 6.3 addresses. If healthcare workers feel silenced or threatened, we don't just have a system problem, we have an ethical crisis. That statement, do this or lose your job, is coercion. This provision protects your right to three key provisions. Provision 2.1, primary commitment to the patient. Whether it's a patient or a peer, our duty is to advocate for their well-being, not push policies that risk harm. Provision 8.4, protecting human rights and reduce disparities. Ethical nursing means honoring religious beliefs and informed consent, not coercing compliance. She wasn't treated with dignity. She was treated like a liability. Provision 1.2. Respect for self-determination. Provision 1.1 reminds us every patient deserves dignity. Provision 3.4 calls us to protect patient safety, even when protocols shift. Provision 7.3 and 8.3 both highlight our duty to contribute to ethical research and public health policy, not blindly enforce it. And Provision 8.4, it's our charge to stand up when systems fail. When conflict arises, this provision makes it clear. Your ethical and legal duty remains with the one in the bed, not the one signing your paycheck. You are not ethically obligated to comply with policies that violate your conscience or the code. If your employer demands obedience at the expense of human life or dignity, Provision 5.3 calls you to object. Preserve your integrity. Do not conform to corruption. That's not just your right, it's your responsibility. When the system fails patients, whether by ignoring adverse events, safety signals, blocking treatment, or hiding data, you're not a bystander. You're ethically required to challenge the failure. We are called to speak truth to power, not protect broken systems. Advocacy isn't optional. If government policy conflicts with patient safety or sound evidence, you are ethically bound to challenge it. Nurses are not just permitted to resist injustice, we are called to do so. especially when lives are on the line. This provision gives you clear authority. If you see harm, take action, even if it means challenging your employer. Provision 1.4, protection from harm. Nurses must act to prevent harm, including when systems fail to recognize or address it. If adverse reactions are being ignored and left undocumented, patients are being actively placed at risk. Silence becomes complicity. Provision 3.4, professional responsibility and research. This vaccine was under EUA during stage 3 trials. Refusing to document adverse events violates basic research ethics and patient protection. Provision 6.3, responsibility for a culture of safety. If the hospital had no VAERS protocol, nurses were ethically bound to escalate and advocate for one. Provision 7.3, contribution to policy and evidence-based practice. You can't have evidence-based practice if the evidence is never collected. Nurses are responsible for exposing these gaps. We are told to advocate. Provision 9.4, integrity in public health and policy. When systems avoid reporting to protect an agenda, it is nurses who must hold the line, ethically, professionally, and publicly. The public depends on nurses to tell the truth. When policies get political and data gets buried, nurses are called to rise, even when the consequences are steep. Faith was the foundation of my moral courage. You don't have to share my beliefs to understand this. Nurses need something greater to anchor to when pressure threatens our integrity. Provision 5.3 calls us to preserve our moral integrity, even when it comes at a cost. Nurses must not participate in actions that conflict with their consciousness or ethical obligations. We are called to refuse to abandon our values, even when it's hard. Provision 9.4 takes it a step further. It says we're responsible for challenging institutional failure, especially when public safety is at risk. This means not just going along with hospital policy. Provision speaks directly to advocacy. It tells us, even if it puts you at risk, protect the patient. That's what I did, and what many nurses have done when we stood between harmful protocols and vulnerable patients. Sometimes harm looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like compliance. But the truth is, by exposing harm, we actually prevent it. This is about refusing to stand by when patients are being misled, neglected. Provision 5.2 encourages us to build resilience in the face of adversity, because ethical nursing doesn't always come easy. In my case, I had to trust that telling the truth, even when it cost me my reputation and job, would lead to something greater. These 4 principles are at the heart of ethical advocacy. Patient autonomy. Nurses don't make decisions for patients. We empower them to make informed ones for themselves. Informed consent. Our job is to make sure patients aren't coerced, misled, or rushed. They must understand the risks, benefits, and alternatives. And sometimes we're the only ones making sure that happens. Protection from harm. When something isn't right, we speak up. We elevate concerns. We don't bury them. Moral courage. This is the anchor. When all else fails, it's courage that carries us through. That internal voice saying, stand firm. Thank you for being part of this discussion. Your feedback will help refine the module.
Thanks for joining me for this module of Navigating Ethical Waters. I hope it challenged and inspired you to lead with boldness